Thank you, Miss Adams, for joining me today
Thank you
and
for
having
having
this
me, Mia.
conversation. Of course, and having this conversation around what is it that you all are doing that's really working, that you see traction behind, and then what are some things that you're excited to share with us that you've implemented from instruction partners that's working. So can you just introduce yourself a little bit?
Okay, I'm Aisley Adams. I am proud principal, lucky principal, Nimitz Ninth Grade, which is a ninth grade center in Aldine ISD. So very proud to be in Aldine ISD.
Thank you so much for joining us. And as I said, Ty was so excited about sharing you all and saying, they're doing some wonderful things, and I think we should highlight it. And so thank you for joining me today.
Thank you.
My first question is, what has been your top priority this week, given COVID and quarantine and distance learning as an educator?
So our top priority this week has been clarity. Clarity around roles, clarity around expectations, just clarity in general, because in the virtual world, you have a lot of noise going on, and you have a lot to communicate, and using various platforms and relying on the internet to connect you with other people. We've been really working on clarity and really defining everyone's role in this virtual setting. Our saying now is, how can we maximize clarity to minimize chaos and confusion? And that's really what has been our goal: maximizing clarity, minimizing confusion. And so that is our number one goal for the last week, and it's gonna be our goal for next week. Not just for my leadership team, but our teachers who are leaders in the classroom, virtual classroom. So that's been our top priority.
That is extraordinary, maximizing clarity to minimize all of the other things that could get in the way of clarity. I love that. What would you say a win will look like for this week or next week for you?
A win for me would be based on the feedback. We're surveying our teachers right now around their needs, what they need communicated more, and what they need to hear around student expectations. So getting that feedback alone is a win for me, because I think it's an opportunity for us to grow as leaders. But the other win is right now we're doing communication calls to families. So if we can get between 85% or higher making a contact with a parent and a student between now and next Wednesday, that is a win for us, because we did not get as high as we wanted to last time. And so our goal for this week is loving on kids and making connections with the families. And because I tell my teachers, it doesn't matter how much work you post if kids don't have access to it. So how can we call them and see what's going on, what are the barriers, and how we can support? So that's the win we're working on at Nimitz 9 for this week.
I love that, and you're paying so much attention to really the basic needs of folks. I heard you say we're figuring out what our teachers need and the barriers and needs of the students. I think that's so powerful. What are some needs that you have heard that your teachers need?
Self-care is something that I preach about every day. And I'm realizing more as a leader, I can't just preach about it, I have to model it also for them. And so I think right now they just need some time to decompress, to just even unpack the information they're receiving on an ongoing daily basis, and really time to just unpack their own feelings, because when you're a teacher, you automatically, innately take on the problems of your kids, your colleagues. And so providing those opportunities to them to just decompress and vent and problem solve with them. Their biggest need right now is they miss their kids, and they want to see what can we do to take them over the hump without being able to see them, but how can we still motivate, encourage, inspire, and make those emotional connections with them? Because I mentioned and reminded them today that school, it was that place, that safe place for our kids, that escape. And now they don't have that. And so how can we still let them know we may not physically be there, or we're not in the building, but school is still happening and relationships can still be built with your teachers?
Yeah, self-care and really having time to decompress is quintessential. And like you said, in order for your teachers to do it, you have to provide the structure and also the modeling. So I love that. I heard you talk about your students and some of the things about school having been an escape for them and a place that was safe for them. What are you learning about in this process that their needs are?
We are learning through calls and communication, whether it's the phone or email with parents. We're learning if they have technology needs, if they need some kind of device, if they need Wi-Fi access. And it could also just be help with navigating the virtual classes. How do I access this? How do I access that? And then our families who have lost income, lost jobs, who are trying to navigate just life and still want their kids to receive an education. And I think one of the great things that Aldine has done is provide technology to students, laptops, Wi-Fi connections, and we're still looking at the next phase in those that may not have made it for the first round for whatever reason, and they're going to take advantage of a second phase of issuing that to them, because we want to make sure kids can still learn. And now, you know, school was just a building, and now we're just transitioning it to online. And so how do we keep them engaged? But a lot of the needs have been around technology and food, and they have distribution going on constantly within the district, and income, which has really been impacted during COVID-19.
I love that you all are not just asking, but there are things that you're doing about it to make sure that kids and families feel like we got your back, whether we're in that building or not.
Right.
Yeah, and the calling and the showing up with technology, that's huge.
Mm-hmm.
That's really huge. What resources have you seen support you from instruction partners?
So I've seen a lot of resources, honestly. And I don't know that I could have functioned as a school leader in this time without the resources that have been provided in the leadership toolkit. That has really helped us gain clarity and focus around, okay, we're in a virtual school. How do we maximize people? And how do we get kids engaged in a virtual setting? Because we're no longer in the classroom. And it's a complete paradigm shift. So of course I'm thinking, oh God, how are we gonna make all of this work? Because I've never been in a virtual school, and I know working on a master's virtually was hard. So I can only imagine for kids. And so the leadership toolkit has been my go-to right now in just providing structure, systems. We just finished in our instructional leadership team meeting aspirations for student learning and culture, just really taking a dive into where are we in the phases, and how do we move from phase 1 to phase 2? What does that look like? We just looked at roles and responsibilities, because in the virtual world, they are slightly different now than what we were doing in the building. And now that we're in a virtual school, those responsibilities have also shifted with the personnel that we have. So the leadership toolkit has really been an awesome guide. I know that my math department has taken advantage of the grab and go just for planning and getting ideas and activities to load into Schoology for students. And so I think the resources that are there have just been really powerful in communicating with my team and them having a visual about where we are, where we need to go, and how to get there.
That is so amazing. And the tools, and the way that you all are using the tools, and some of the results that you're getting from that. What have you seen in terms of impact or outcomes from using some of those tools?
I've seen some minimizing in confusion and an increase in clarity. And it's allowed us to redefine our thinking about who's responsible for what and what do we need right now. so that that can filter down into our PLCs. Because if our ILT is structured, our PLCs will be structured. And so what I've seen is a lot of practices that we utilize in our instructional leadership team are filtering down into the PLC. Because when we think about roles and responsibilities, once we know ours and it's defined, it's easier for us to support teachers. And so that's one of the areas that I think we've had a lot of traction in, is a strengthening of our PLCs. We took the aspirations for student learning and I made them into a survey for my instructional leadership team. And then that resulted in those members making it into a survey for their teachers. So it's a cycle of feedback and then problem solving. And so that's what I think I've enjoyed the most about the resources, because it's pushing us outside of our comfort zone to think about how can we make this virtual school setting just as engaging and exciting and organized and meaningful for kids. And so that's one of the areas I know that it's helped us a lot.
That is awesome. And thank you for sharing that. I feel like sometimes we are doing things and sometimes we don't even realize the great impact it's had on our school and the work that we're doing. So thank you so much for sharing. What do you feel, Ms. Adams, most proud of right now?
I am most proud of, and I don't even have to think about it, of my leadership team and my teachers, because they have taken this in stride. And I have seen some really great outcomes as far as teaching and learning goes. As far as reaching out to students, I think we have made greater strides in this COVID era than we had in the building. And we were making progress in the building, but this is just like a new level of progress and creativity and connectivity with each other that, you know, sometimes we're quick to get down to business, and this has really allowed us to spend time building relationship skill and leveraging that to move the work along. And I am most proud of every teacher at Nimitz Ninth and every leadership team member at Nimitz Ninth, because they do the work. I'm supporting the work and leading the work, but I give all them praise, glory, kudos, high five, because they are really leaning in, and I'm proud of them. Not the complaining, none of those things. It's just, what do we need to do? And I'm proud of my teachers who are leaders, and my assistant principals, counselors. Everyone's just in the work, and I feel like we're locked arms right now. And I hope to just keep that momentum going, but that's definitely what I'm most proud of.
I could just feel the energy behind what you're saying and like see the visual of linking arms and the team really moving together. That is so powerful and beautiful. What would you say has been the most challenging part of being in the COVID experience, distance learning?
I think the most challenging part has been navigating the uncertainty of what kids need. How do we get it? How do we still keep providing quality instruction? And making sure that we're over communicating with everyone. I think that it has been a challenge at times, because even though it's virtual, deciding what platform is best to reach everyone has been something that we were challenged in, and we're seeing some success. But I think the biggest challenge has just been transitioning into a virtual setting and everything that comes with it. We're a lot further along than we were 4 or 5 weeks ago. But I think just the transition from in the structure of going into school every day, and this is what we did routinely, and now it's very different, because the instructional leader still has to be there, but the manager still has to be there also. And so I think the transition just into a virtual setting for our teachers who've never done that type of school before has been the biggest challenge.
Yeah, when I'm hearing this and hearing how proud you are of your team, it sounds like you have a team that even when challenges come up, that they know how to jump in. And this is just one of the challenges that has come up, a big one, but one of the challenges that's come up. But that your team is lifting as they're climbing and continuing to take it in stride.
Yes.
That's awesome.
They're definitely lifting as they're climbing it, and I see it and I feel it, and it's exciting for me because we want to use this time also to build our next level of leaders.
Right.
And who knows what COVID era will bring for virtual schooling, and so I know that we'll be ready for it. So
yeah, I love that. If you can give advice, you said 4 or 5 weeks ago you were in a completely different space. If you can give advice to a school, if you can imagine them being where you all were 4 to 5 weeks ago, if you can give any advice to schools who will be listening to this, what would you say?
I would say take one step at a time. Definitely use the COVID-19 resource hub that Instruction Partners has, because it is provided so much clarity for us and direction. But I would say really redefine what leadership looks like during this time, because it's important. And I realize that now how important it is for my people to see my face as the leader. And not just send emails and put things in the group me and, send things here and there, but leadership is so important right now. And being authentic about your leadership and really prioritizing the relationships with the teachers and staff that are having to get this work done, but really just sitting down and thinking about what does your virtual campus need and how do you get there? Not doing it just alone, but with the people that you've surrounded yourself with, because I don't have all the answers, and I'm glad I have a team of people who help, but who also push on me like, I don't know, I don't necessarily agree with that. Maybe have you thought about this? And so I would say just to sit down, really think about where you are, and the aspirations for student culture and learning is a good place to start because it's where we started. And really problem solve how to move from each phase, because it doesn't happen overnight. And I would say transparency and communication. That is the biggest thing that I think is helping us, is just being transparent and being good communicators and saying what we mean, meaning what we say, and modeling what we say, but also being transparent, because sometimes we have to deliver news that is not exciting or not what people want to hear, but people want truth more than anything. And so, and sometimes truth is not comfortable, but it's what we have to give. And that's kind of the price of leadership. Sometimes you have to, deliver things that you don't necessarily want to, but just be transparent and be an authentic leader in this time, because COVID will really reveal your flaws as a leader. And, but I think it's been a beautiful thing, because now you know what you need to work on. But just transparency and communication and authenticity in this process. And prioritize your people, because without them, none of this matters. It's all for nothing if we're not valuing them, their space, their families, and their time.
I think what I heard loud and clear is relationships and a price and cost of leadership.
Yes.
That is so powerful to think about, and communication and prioritizing your people and
Right.
making sure they see your face. So that is necessary, and it continues and creates the humanity in this space versus I'm just sending you out information.
Right.
Rather than connecting with you face to face as much as possible, or screen to screen.
Right. And I think even with the technology platforms, it's forced me as a leader to familiarize myself with them, because I can't expect a teacher to use it and I don't know how to use it. I can't say get on Flipgrid and you're not doing Flipgrid if I have no experience with it and know what it takes to be successful with it. So I think just really leaning in also and being a part of the work that we're asking them to do.
Yeah, that is so, I think it goes back to your very first point about modeling even around self-care, right? It's like, I need to know how to do something if I'm asking you to do it. That's self-care, and that's, the adaptive stuff and the tactical stuff. So
Yes.
thank you so much for engaging in this. Are there any questions you have for me, or anything that you want to, any things that you want to say before we end the recording?
I don't have any questions. I think my last comment would be if I could share any advice. We've had to take time to really redefine our norms, and in this virtual setting, what does it look like now that we're virtual? But we've also had to say, these are our pillars here at Nimitz Ninth that we believe in, that have to happen. And so I think it's important to first define those things that are important to you. I know self-care, appreciation, simplicity, and practicality are ours. And so once we knew that, it was the rest of the work began to fall in line. And so if I could give any advice, it would be defining those pillars or beliefs that a leader has for their campus.
That is so, so important. What are the norms, beliefs that we want to stand on and ground as a foundation for the rest of our work to build on?